Guillemot toy once and a Green Goblin toy, and a kid busted me. He goes, "Why are you buying that, mister? You're too old." And I explained to him that I played the character, and then he went bananas. But he never would have known otherwise, because little kids can't really see the shows that I do use my real voice for, because it's usually too scary for them. I'm usually doing something really awful.
Was that 8-year-old you sold him an autograph?
He was paying cash.
Oh, well, yeah, that's different.
I ran his card, it was no good.
Outside of the dubbing and anime world, do you guys have any like hobbies, things you like to do outside of work?
For me, I love acting, and especially, well, kind of like what you're saying, whenever it's emotional or something where you can really dive into. But other than that would be like my band and write music and singing and that kind of stuff. We're not even really that good, but just being able to be a little more creative
Sure,
and
he's very good.
That kind of thing is a little fun.
Me, I play. Well, I did play tennis a lot and golf, but now it's mostly golf because the knees are pretty much gone, and so that's pretty much my outlet is golf.
You're at the right place.
Yeah, I think he scored here.
What? Oh yeah, that's right. Hello. Yeah, I'm in my habitat.
So there's a world beyond voiceover? I didn't know there was anything else. But for me, that's my therapy. I love going to work every day, and there's really nothing else that I enjoy more than doing that, except for hanging out with my kids, playing with my pets, doing stuff with my girlfriend. So I used to,
What do you do with your girlfriend?
Stuff.
I do chores. That's what I do.
Oh, honeydews, I see.
I like making stuff and fixing stuff, and I like working with my hands. I used to play music too, and I don't do that enough, but that was one of my big outlets too for a while. Over there. How about you over here? Well, in a lot of shows, we have to do a minimum of 3 roles just to begin with, and then they'll keep adding roles on it. But I've done in an anime show.
There's like different shows at one time.
Oh, like how many, like in a day? Like up to, for me, like I try to keep it, don't do more than like 3. I don't even like to do that. I do 2. Is that what you mean? Like go in and record 2 different places? Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. That's fine.
If we're lucky, it's a lot. I mean, I'm doing some series now, and some of those shows you have to come in a couple times during the week to do, especially on some of the big video games. If you get cast as a character in one of these big epic video games, I'm working on one of those right now, and I had to come in 3 times for that one game in 1 week last week. And then, if we're lucky, I grab at work whenever I can. So I've had weeks where I've had to do 10, 12 different shows. So it's hard. It's really hard on the body to do that. But yeah, I mean, when they come, and sometimes you have a real low period, so you have to kind of take it when it's there.
Right, when it rains, it pours, and then you'll be idle for a period of time. But I don't do as much voice work as as these guys do. So I think 3 or 4 would be the most for me at the same time.
But sometimes they'll throw you in a booth, and on some of the bigger, I know that guy. That's Flame Dramon, the Fire of Courage. Sometimes they'll, especially on the video games, they'll especially if they're small characters, they'll throw 15, 20 different characters at you that you've never seen before when you go in the booth, and you've got to do all of that within a 4-hour period, and you've got to make them all sound distinct and different enough, and the people that are able to jump from voice to voice like that effectively are the ones that are really going to nail a lot of the work. They're going to get a lot of work by doing that.
Yeah, there are times when you'll do a project, and then maybe a larger role. Steve does a lot of leads, and then you'll go back and do Soldier 1, Guard A, that you wouldn't hear it because we're changing our voice, but we're filling in. because it's a financial consideration for the company, because if they bring in another actor, then they have to pay more money than they would pay us if we're doing more than, many characters. We get a bump for characters, but it's still, or different episodes even, but it's still, it's cheaper for them, so that there are so many very, very talented folks in our business, like these two guys they could spend all day in there doing different voices and you wouldn't know who they were when they, that was the same guy doing those voices.
Unlike Vic.
Pardon?
That's not true, actually. Vic Mignogna you're talking about? He's actually, he's got a rubber band for a throat. That guy can actually do a lot more than you think he can.
Characters sound like Ed Elric.
I know, but
You can kind of say that with some of my characters too, though. We get cast a lot of times, at least for me, I guess. I get cast a lot of times for this range, my normal range. And then occasionally, they'll want something like a kid's voice or something like that. So it's kind of, you're going to hear that. Because they've even said, well, we like the way you sound as Vash. Can you do that for this character? So then you're like, well, you have to do it. Otherwise you don't get the job,
Yeah, a lot of times that's the way you get the gig.
Yeah, and then they'll add other voices on that you'll never recognize. I've for years, and it still happens, I check around on the boards every now and then, and there are still a lot of people that say Steve Blum is that guy that does that one voice. And I go, great, thank you for listening to that one voice, but that voice has gotten me in the door, and then once you're there, you have to do other stuff. You got to step up to the plate. But, saying that guys like Vic aren't able to do that, that's really not true. He's actually a really versatile guy, and a lot of people don't know that.
Right.
Yeah.
He always gets typecast.
I know. Well, we all do. We all do, but that's what keeps us working. We find our niche, and we're known for that. He's known for that Vash voice. It's signature, and he's known for Jet, and that's what gets us into that door. I'm known for Spike, and I can't tell you how many jobs that's got me, and I have to do that exact same voice, and I'm going, no, they're going to recognize this. There's nothing I can do about it, but once we get in that door, they're going to require other things of us, too, that you won't know about necessarily, and we won't tell you.
Right, yeah. And, so often, we don't know beforehand.
Yeah.
We get in there, and they say, okay, this is what we've got for you. And, you just go with the flow, and that's what happens.
Have you ever had a time where your characters are essentially conversing with each other, so you're doing both sides at the same time?
Every now and then that happens, and hopefully there's a big distinction between, you're different places and you register, you're up here and you're down there or whatever, but that's kind of a ticklish situation.
Yeah, well, with the Ichigo, there's regular Ichigo that talks like this, and then the other one's much higher, and who am I? And Ichigo's all low or whatever, or lower. So yeah, it happens occasionally for me too, even though sometimes it's always like this.
I love when that happens, actually. I love the challenge of trying to make them sound different enough. The problem is when you start working on something and you've established that character and you're going and going and going, and then you come in for another session on another character later on. You start doing that character for a while, and then you don't realize, and the directors don't realize, because they may not have all the stuff in from Japan yet, they may not have all the episodes together yet, that those characters at some point are going to come together, and they may sound really similar. And so at that point, you've got to come up with something in the booth to distinguish them, and we find ways of doing it, but yeah, it happens all the time, actually. And especially because, like Beau was saying, they're trying to save money, and so they want each actor to be able to perform multiple roles rather than hire other people. It's a whole separate contract that way, rather than a little extra piece that they give us. So, it's a good question.
Were there any roles you guys just didn't like to do, or you guys research your own roles and have faith in your own?
Excuse me, the only time I've turned down work is when I was physically not available to do it. That I literally had to be 2 places at one time. Well, I should say that was up to a few years ago. Now I turn down the growling stuff. I don't do the growling stuff. But otherwise, I'll do that, but I'm not going to do 3 hours of it. So now, before I would say, someone would call me, I'd say, okay, I'm there. How long you want me? I'm there. But now I want to find out, is there any growling, screaming? Am I going to be doing that for 3? Like I did one for Epcar. I don't know. It was like